everyone's just like, set a boundary, set a boundary, set a boundary. But no one actually talks about what happens after you set the boundary. Or like I said, here I saw, oh, well, I've set boundaries in multiple places, so this won't be an issue. And yet, ding, 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 here we are.
Hi, I'm Jen.
Hey, I'm Suzanne. And today we're talking about what happens when you set a boundary. Because I think for a long time, I thought when you set a boundary that you would just feel amazing as soon as you set it, because it was scary to set it.
Like a huge relief. Like life would be just perfect once you set this boundary. Once you finally had the courage to set the boundary.
Yes.
It's going to be sunshine, rainbows, and maybe a few unicorns.
Yes.
That's what I thought.
That is not true. And so today we're going to talk about the reality of setting a boundary in a very lighthearted manner. So in this particular story, because there's multiple boundaries that have been set and some have been very difficult and others maybe not as emotionally difficult, but this was an example of something that wasn't your typical really emotional boundary, but that still was really difficult for me. So after I sold the law firm, I was a stay-at-home mom, and one of the things I really wanted to do was participate more in the PTA. I wanted to be involved in my son's school and an elementary school before he got out, and so I got involved in two of the biggest fundraisers for the school. One was a haunted house that we do in the fall.
Yes.
And then the other is the jogathon.
Okay.
So as a working mom, I had no idea the amount of time that it took to plan a large fundraiser. I was always sure, I can give an hour here or an hour here.
Sure.
No idea. Right. So once I got involved, I was like, holy moly. So shout outs, let me say, because it's all volunteer, no pay, to all the moms out there that do and dads, whomever, that work on these fundraisers, because it's a lot of work and a ton of hours.
It's a lot of work.
So I found myself, working 40 hours a week doing these things. I was shocked by it, but also I felt really, there was a sense of purpose to it. I felt happy to give, where I felt for a long time I really hadn't given to my community in that way. And it was nice to serve and also meet new people outside of the business I had been in for a long time. And so after a year, I was got ready to start building a business again. I was okay, I cannot build the business and work these kind of hours. You and I talked about it. Yes. And so none of these people that I worked with were my bestest friends or anything. And so when I say it wasn't something emotional, it wasn't with family when you have to put down a boundary and it's tied to so many other things. It's the PTA, but people I cared about, right? And so
of course.
I was originally going to say, oh, I can't do the haunted house because that one comes first. And I just couldn't say it. I froze about setting a boundary because I was so worried about the feedback that I was going to get. What's my co-chair going to think of me? What are these other moms going to think of me? What kind of mom am I to just give up on fundraising that my kid's school needs? And if I'm not going to do it, who's going to do it? And so I kind of was half in, was hey, I can't come to all the meetings, but I'll still be your co-chair. I'll be there the week of. And so it still felt like I had one foot in the door, and I had set a minor boundary, but I hadn't really set the actual boundary that I wanted to set. And it impacted me starting the business, our podcast, and all of those things because it took a ton of time, right? And I found myself, as I've done so many times in my life, being so super resentful. Somehow these people had caused all this distress for me. And you just can't imagine it. And I couldn't start my business. And I found myself saying this to other people, friends of mine.
Oh, yeah.
And then being hey, Suzanne, let's roll it back, right? Discovered that me, as is my default mode, I will go into victim mode. Like, poor me, poor me. And therefore, if I'm the victim, you're the villain. You, whomever you are in my scenario, you are my villain, right?
Yes.
So fast forward, we come to the jogathon this year. And I'm like, okay, Suzanne, you need to call your co-chair and tell her, like, you simply can't do it. You cannot do it. Like, there is no version of this where you can do it, right?
Yes.
And I'm having to like talk to myself and be like, hey, Suzanne, and I feel ridiculous because I'm like, Suzanne, all you're saying is you can't give all this time. Like, if it was any other human being telling me this, I'd be like, what's the problem? You have other priorities. This isn't your priority. You've given all your time to this. Like, why is this such an issue for you? And
I would like to point out, it's not like you signed up and said yes, and then now you're saying no. So you haven't committed and now you're pulling out of it. So it's not even that. It's just they're expecting you to continue, which, oh, I got the thumbs up, which everyone, you know, right? It's like assumptive sale.
Yeah.
We need her. She's good. She shows up. She makes everything right.
Yeah.
So we're not going to say anything. We're not going to offer her a way out. I mean, we've all been there. We don't want the really good worker to leave.
Of course, right? And also, I feel like there was part of that, like, perfectionism. Like, you either have to be all or nothing, Suzanne. Like, you're either all in for the event or you're not all in for the event. And like, if you're not going to be all in, like, what's your point?
And I would say, I know you think it's all in or not, but I would say there's the other part of you that knows that if you're not all in, that you're going to have more problems setting multiple boundaries than to just set one that says, I'm not doing it. Yeah. And so that anxiety makes you want to be like, yep, it's all or nothing. But really it's because volunteering the amount you want to feels hard to say, feels hard to manage back to, because it's not like they're going to just stop asking. They're going to be like, oh, well, but could you do this? Or could you do that? And even though it's harmless, it has nothing to do with them. They're just trying to figure out what you can and can't do. And then obviously, you know, we're always like pushing people that we really need.
For sure.
But it's because it puts the onus back on you multiple times, which feels so overwhelming. Yeah. When you're learning to set boundaries. So I want to just put that out there for other people. If you feel sometimes you need to be all or nothing because you're learning to set boundaries. Yeah. But please know you can find somewhere in the middle once you feel more comfortable, keeping a boundary per se, or continually saying no.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. And I also think, like, I'd set so many boundaries by this point in time. I think I was also frustrated with myself. Like, why of all these things are you worried about this? Like, you've set much harder boundaries than this.
Yes.
And again, I think we oftentimes think like our healing journey is very linear and like, oh, if I've done it once here, then it's not going to be a problem. So I also just wanted, the reason I liked this example was because it was not your typical, like I said, like a super emotional boundary. And so I call my co-chair. I let her know. She's like, oh, wow, I'm so excited. You're starting this new business and your podcast. That sounds amazing. She's super supportive. She's like, let me know where you can help. Oh, okay. All right. So I feel good about it, right? And now the event, I'm seeing like all the emails and all the things come up with it. And now the guilt starts coming, right? Like, oh man, I should have been. And it's like, well, like I should have been volunteering. Like all the same doubts I had about setting the boundary in the first place keep coming up. And I think that's what you're saying when you feel like you have to set the boundary multiple times. It's like you have to like gain that courage again to reset the boundary. But the truth of the matter is like once I got a little bit more comfortable and so like the number of times that I would have to say or like kind of steel myself to say, oh no, I can't do that, or seeing the email or someone asking, hey, Suzanne, can you help with this? Or because a lot of people didn't know like what my role was at that point, right? Because PTA communication is kind of like all over the place. So like, oh, hey, Suzanne, can you help with this? Can you help with that? And as with time went on, I was like, I got much more comfortable with it, right? Like, oh, hey, sorry, no, I can't do this. I do this. And I had also decided at that point, what was I willing to do? So that was something I wish I would have set at the very beginning. and I now am trying to do that moving forward, is what am I willing to do? Because to me, that really helps also with the boundary, right? Because now if someone asks me, I'm very clear. I'm not having to rethink it each time that they ask me something. And then the time that I worry about it gets less and less and less and less. So to me, when I'm talking about the good consequence, or maybe the positive versus the negative. So the positive is I was able to work on my business and be with my family and do the things I needed to do. I was also able to volunteer in the capacity I was able to volunteer. I also saw that my concerns and my kind of guilt or emotions or shame or whatever it was related to
all of it,
my decisions, the time got less and less and less for what I was worrying about. So those were all good things. But what I also wanted to point out was it doesn't mean that all of those negative feelings and like concerns you might have weren't going to come up. And that's why I felt like, oh, this is really important because like we said at the beginning of the episode, unicorns and rainbows. Like once I set a boundary, I'm never going to have to worry about it again. But also like don't not set the boundary because you're worried that, oh, it's not going to be unicorns and rainbows, because there's so many positives that come with it over time. And I just feel like that doesn't get talked enough about. Everyone's just like, set a boundary, set a boundary, set a boundary. But no one actually talks
100%.
about what happens after you set the boundary. Or like I said, here I saw, oh, well, I've set boundaries in multiple places, so this won't be an issue. And yet, ding, ding, ding.
Here we are. Yes. Yeah. And I loved what you said about realizing that next time when it is going to be, you already know, right? Based on like your feelings and everything, that this is going to be a more difficult boundary for you, is to decide ahead of time. Again, decide what you are willing to do and what you're not willing to do. And then also accept that like you don't know the future. So if something changes, you're allowed to change your mind too.
Yeah.
You and I struggle with that a lot, where it's like, well, I already said this is what I am and like will do and won't do. And then it's like, yeah, but we could also realize that week's really light and you decided you wanted to give 10 hours that week or whatever. And then guess what? The next week, it doesn't mean you recommitted to 10 hours. Like, I think that you and I come from, because it has been so difficult for us to set boundaries, that we also go into an all or nothing mode when it comes to like what we will and won't do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that becomes like a whole thing to manage.
Right? I mean, we talk about that all the time. Like, oh, wait a minute, I'm changing my opinion. Like, what?
Yeah. You're not allowed to change your opinion. Like, or you're not allowed to change your mind. Like, yes, you are. Yes, you are. That's called healing.
Yeah. And I think for me, like the takeaway is really like freedom and guilt can exist at the same time when you set a boundary. And I feel like if you just know that going in, you're going to know that it's not going to be so surprising when it hits you. Like I knew going in that I was going to have these feelings and it's okay. And that I think that the positive is that it does shorten with time. Like those feelings feel real big at first. Like I said, when I was telling her, no, I can't do this, it felt to pump yourself real big. I did. I had to have a whole conversation. I think I called you first. Like we had a whole conversation about it. And things that maybe don't feel like a big deal, setting that boundary still can feel really big. Like you can still have really big emotions about something that you, like for me, I wouldn't typically feel like, oh, saying no about a PTA event would bring up really big feelings, but it does. And like shaming myself for that wouldn't be helpful. Instead, it's like, hey, freedom's going to feel really good when you do this, but guilt's still going to be there. Or concern or insecurity or whatever it is.
FOMO, all the things. Like we always say, all the things can coexist. Everything can be true. And I would also say that sometimes when we're having the big feelings, it's okay that you're having the big feelings because the thing is not about the thing. The big feelings are coming from somewhere else and it's okay. So like you said, you just accept the big feelings. And I will say I have like a whole course on setting boundaries. If anyone's interested, please go check it out. It's really inexpensive and it completely tells you how to walk through the whole thing, the fear of setting boundaries, how to do it. Like it's literally a step-by-step because as you can tell, Suzanne and I have had many many years setting boundaries. And if anyone understands how hard it is to set boundaries, I assure you it's Suzanne and I.
Yeah.
Hands down. We still have to talk each other off the ledge sometimes. Like,
we're having an episode about it right now.
And we will have so many more. Like, well, you just had the other one on setting the boundary, saying no, like the people pleasing. It's all the same people. You can call it what you want. People pleaser, fear of setting boundaries, all the things, like for the lawyer episode.
Yeah.
Because you're a lawyer and you're always like, yes, I can help you. Yes, I can help you. And in fact, no, you may not help them because you don't even have like malpractice insurance. So
speaking of freedom and guilt, right? I got multiple text message and calls after that. Like, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I'm like, no. And so here I am feeling guilty again. Like, the last thing I was trying to do was make you feel guilty. Like, whoa. And then I was like, Suzanne, breathe. Like, everyone's allowed to have their own feelings about it. Like, that doesn't make what you did wrong. Everyone can have their feelings about it. And like, that's okay. And what I love about your boundary course is that there is a step-by-step guide, because it's scary and it feels overwhelming. And so to have a step-by-step guide that gets you there, and that you feel like you can read kind of in the comfort of your own home without, you know, because it can be something really personal, and it is something really personal, especially when you're first testing it out. And so I love that your guide just gives you a step-by-step process to get there. So definitely go check it out. We'll put it in the show notes.
And so what would you say are your major takeaways? I mean, I know we kind of wrapped it up, but everybody loves the takeaways.
Yeah, I think that boundaries are all about clarity, not comfort.
Oh, boom, mic drop. I'm taking that one and running with it.
Right? Because ultimately, your boundaries are clarifying what you need, right? And what you want out of life. And but you're likely, if you're anything and you're on a healing journey, it's not going to be comfortable, but it gets better. It gets so much better. And that's where freedom and guilt can exist at the same time.
Yes, agreed. I love that. I love that so much. And I love that we're just talking about that setting the boundary has both positive and negative effects. But ultimately, what it does get you, because I just want to say it again, because people are like, oh, well, I don't want to do something that's uncomfortable if it's not going to make me feel better. It isn't going to make you feel better in the moment. But what it will do will allow you to live the life that you want to live.
Yeah.
And with limited time on this earth, why do you want to spend your time doing things that other people want you to do that you don't want to do?
Yeah.
Like, why would you do that? And for the moms, would you want your kids to do that? And would you teach your kids that? Do you want your kids to spend time making other people happy or making themselves happy?
Yep.
I'm just going to leave you with that. And the question for today would be, although I gave you a few, would be, what's one thing that you've tried to set a boundary for or stepped back from that you still feel guilty about, and that you kind of decided, well, like, that didn't work and that was uncomfortable, and so I'm not doing it again? Or I'm not, because I think that's what we do. We kind of say, well, that didn't really go how I thought it was going to go. And so, so we would encourage you to continue to try to set boundaries.
To get clarity.
Yes. To get clarity of your life, set the boundary and move forward, and know that the feelings will follow the action. You will hear that from us a lot.
Yeah.
So that's it for today.
I hope you discovered something in my story.
See you next time. Same place, same sisterhood. Bye.